Kirsten comes with 2S. She's a speech and language pathologist and a BCBA. She works for the autism clinics at Hope as a regional director of a few clinics that Hope has. And today she's going to be talking about toileting, which I think is always a fun topic.
Oh, isn't it though? Such a popular topic. So let me share my screen now for everybody.
Sounds good. As
Okay.
yeah, and same as previous presentations, use that Q&A box for questions. We're going to address questions as they come. So if you have questions as we're going through that presentation, please put those in the Q&A.
Yes. Yeah, if you guys have any questions at any time, just jump on in because this toilet training might be not exactly what you were expecting, but so first I'm going to talk about the history of toilet training, kind of how things got started, the big researchers in it, go over some recent research, and then we're going to talk about the most important components for toilet training. So, all right. Okay. Why is toilet training so important? Well, we all know why it's important, but hygiene. Toilet diapers are just, yeah. Those of you that are dealing with diapers, they are not fun to deal with. The smell, yeah. When your child is wearing diapers, you're having to worry about diaper rashes, them putting their hands in their diapers. So that's a huge problem. Infections from diaper rashes can also be a problem. I've had some older kids when I've worked on toilet training with them that they've had recurrent diaper rashes to the point where they've had to have prescription medication. So that can be pretty significant when they're getting to be older. They can participate with activities of typical developing peers when they're not wearing diapers. You know, other kids are taking group trips to the bathroom. They can go with them. They're not having to go with someone separate for toileting, like with mom and a teacher. It really keeps them included with the regular activities. And of course, there's a lot of family time taken up by children that are incontinent. If you are having to purchase diapers, you're having to take the child to, you know, a special bathroom, a special place, and also the money. Diapers are so expensive, which is why we have the diaper programs, you know, everywhere, people trying to get free or low-cost diapers. So toilet training can solve all of these problems. We get those kids in the underwear. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a history of toilet training and how, you know, what's the research behind it. Crazily enough, I don't know if this is accurate information too. I hate to give out information that's not completely accurate, but according to Amazon, the best-selling toilet training book of all time is Toilet Training in Less Than a Day by Nathan Azrin. And Nathan Azrin was a behavioral psychologist. He published this book in 1974. So long time ago. Wow, that's 50 years ago. Now that I'm doing the math, 50 years ago. So long time ago. And where did this research happen? Why, it happened right in Southern Illinois, actually about 5 minutes from my house at Anna State Hospital, which is really exciting that I live near the home of like big toileting research. But Nate Azrin was hired as a researcher at Anna State Hospital in 1958. He was also hired on as faculty at SIU at that time. So he kind of had dual positions. So he comes to Anna State Hospital and he's seeing all of these people in the facility. And I actually found a really good YouTube video, and I almost put a clip of it in this training, but it was Nate Azrin talking about his time at Anna State Hospital. Well, actually his whole career, but this clip is about working there and how he got to the facility. There are all these adults in the facility. He said there was a room of them just sitting, staring at a blank TV screen. He said the TV wasn't even on. They were just sitting and staring at a blank TV screen. So he said it was really sad, and that he wanted to come in there and really start teaching people meaningful skills that would make their lives worth living and make them happy, engaged, really, like, what is the point of living if you're not actively involved in your environment, you know? So, and at that time, there were no toilet training protocols existing for persons with disabilities that really resulted in lasting incontinence. So there was research out there, but it was for kind of just voiding in the toilet, maybe taking people on a schedule, and nothing that was resulting in people being independently toilet trained, taking care of those things for themselves, and really making a life change. So, okay, so what did Nate Azrin do? Well, he embarked on a very, very important seminal study. This is in 1971. It was called A Rapid Method of Toilet Training by him and one of his students, Richard Foxx, who is actually still alive, if anyone's curious. So I get really excited about research. So, oops, that's not my notification. Okay, so this is an adult population, of course, at Anna State Hospital. There were 9 adult men that participated in this research project. Age 20 to 62 were the ages of these participants. So think about that. They had a participant who is 62 years old, who is not toilet trained, and by gosh, I will tell you, this study was successful. So it's just so inspiring. But he wanted to teach continence to the residents so that would be maintained over time to increase their independence and reduce reliance on staff. Now, really, from like reading about Nate Azrin and things, it did seem that his motivation was definitely to better the residents' lives. He was very motivated to try to get them more, like I said, involved and make their lives more enriched. But I think he had to put it to Anna State Hospital as like, we're going to reduce reliance on staff. We're going to save staff time and money, and that's how you're going to fund this project for us. So, but he had this great quote in the article that normal toileting is not simply a matter of learning to respond to bowel and bladder pressures by relaxing your sphincter, into the toilet, but it's a complex operant and social learning process that had been hindered by a reduced learning capacity and by institutionalization. So these people living at Anna State Hospital not only had disabilities, developmental disabilities that made toilet training more difficult, but just the fact that they were living in an institution, that whole context just was not set up for them to engage in independent skills. So here comes Nate Azrin. He's going to help everybody out. Okay. So this was a group procedure. The participants were trained together. So it's from the article, it said that they were doing 4 of the 9 at once. They said 3 was a better number, but they did 4 at once. Their reasoning was that they could do it efficiently. So they wanted to make it able that one staff person could train multiple people, but also they wanted a modeling effect. So they had the toilets, and I'm guessing that these must have been like bedside commodes that they were using, but like seated right next to each other so that the participants could watch each other toileting and watch them receiving reinforcement or consequences for accidents and kind of learn from that also. So, okay. All right, so as part of this, they did use 2 pieces of electronic equipment. They used underwear alarms. The underwear alarms we're going to talk about a little bit later is one of our components for toilet training. But underwear alarm basically is an alarm that lets you know when someone is urinating in their pants or in bed. We have them set up as bedwetting alarms also. And they also had a sensor in the toilet. So in the bottom of the toilet was a little sensor that if someone voided into the toilet, it would set off an alarm. And then they would know, oh, it was an excessive void. So maybe the trainer was with a different participant, but they would know, oh, this person's alarm is going off. I can provide reinforcement for that person immediately. The same with the underwear alarms on the participant. Perhaps a trainer was with another client and someone's underwear alarm is going off. We know that we need to implement the accident procedure for that one right away. But that allows for immediacy of reinforcement and consequences. Close proximity to the toilet. All of these participants were kept in the same room while they were working on toileting. They did not have to sit on the toilet the whole time, but they had to stay close to the toilet. And that's really important because if urination starts to happen, you need to get them back really quickly so they can finish voiding in the toilet. They increased liquid intake to increase the voids too. That's another component we're going to talk about. They did do extended toilet sits. So the participants sat for 20 minutes initially or until a void occurred. They were allowed to get up for a break. Then they would sit again for another 20 minutes or whatever specified time they were in the training program. They did reinforcement for remaining dry at short intervals. So they did pants checks every so often. I believe it was every 5 to 10 minutes. Good job, staying dry. There's a small piece of reinforcement. So let's say they were using potato chips with a certain client. That participant might get a small chip for being dry at the dry pants check, or in a large amount of chips if they voided in the toilet when they were dry. So lots and lots of reinforcement for voiding, small amounts for staying dry. They were also teaching the independent dressing and approaching the toilet. So as Nate Azrin said, this is not just knowing to just release on the toilet. It's a complex behavior where they were teaching them to walk to the toilet, undress or pull their pants down, sit on the toilet. Then when they were finished, pull pants up, and perhaps even do some of the cleanup too. Of course, like I said, modeling by peer because it was a group instruction. And then they did have a consequence for accidents. If a participant voided in their pants, they were given a verbal reprimand and an overcorrection procedure. So the verbal reprimand was something like, no, you don't wet your pants or you don't pee in your pants. The overcorrection was a little bit excessive given what we know now about these types of procedures. So the overcorrection method they used for consequences for these accidents. And overcorrection is a procedure where you are not only rectifying a problem that you've caused, but it's more than that. So you're going to be over rectifying. They said you're overcorrecting. So these participants had to go and take a shower. They had to wash their pants and then hang them up to dry. And then they had to come back and mop and clean up the entire area if they had any urine or anything in the bathroom area. So they made them clean up everything and then they went right back to their toilet sit. So, okay, so that was the research with adults. And again, those were people living at Anna State Hospital. So I think that they were probably just so inspired with how quickly that research project went and how well it did that they jumped right into kids. Now, this is the big seminal article for children's toilet training. This was in 1973, and it was entitled Dry Pants, a Rapid Method of Toilet Training Children. Okay, so this is just 2 years after they published the research with adults. This was 34 typically developing children aged 20 to 36 months. So that's some young kids. That's not even 3 years old. For this one, this was not a group training. This was individual training. And they had 2 female trainers, which is kind of funny because in the articles, in research articles, they'll have like a little acknowledgement at the bottom of the first page, and they always thank nurses that help them. And they had in the acknowledgements, we'd like to thank these 2 ladies for being our trainers. So I kind of laughed, but these 2 ladies did all the hard work. They ought to pat themselves on the back for toilet training 34 children. I don't know what the time frame was, but on it, but that's pretty impressive. But these children were referred by their parents. They had been doing some pilot studies there, and word of mouth was spreading about these researchers who were toilet training children really quickly. So they had almost 45 children sign up for it. That again also makes me laugh because as someone that's done research before, it's very difficult usually to get participants for research, but in this case, it didn't seem like they had any trouble at all, people signing up for this. So they ended up with 34 kids. They screened them out. The kids had to have certain skills. They had to be able to follow directions. They had to be able to stay dry for a certain amount of time. So they did screen some of them out. But Azrin mentioned in the article that the popular attitude at the time was very permissive for toileting, I guess. So like that kids would toilet whenever they were ready, that, it would come about, kind of naturally. You didn't really need to work on it so much. And, I suppose that is true, that how many typically developing adults do we know who still wear diapers? But, these parents were motivated to get those kids out of pull-ups and out of diapers and into their underwear. And so let's help them out. So in these children for this study were even required to empty the potty seat into the toilet. So not only did they have to stay dry, avoid in the toilet, but they also had to clean up the mess afterwards. So the results were the mean training time for this procedure for kids was 3.9 hours. I mean, that is incredible. They toilet trained one child in a half an hour. So I don't even know, like reading the procedures, how they would even get through the whole thing. And the kid would know it in 30 minutes. But that was their fastest participant, and the longest participant took 14 hours. All of them except one were accident-free at 3 months post, and 30% had stopped overnight accidents. So that's amazing, really. As someone who's toilet trained a lot of kids, that is really amazing that they were able to do that. So let's look at some of the components of that particular study. For this one, they did do something a little different. Well, a few different things in their adult study. They did the imitation with a doll first. So they had a doll there that kids could give the doll liquid and it would urinate. And I actually remember having a baby doll like that when I was a kid. So that must have been a thing in the 70s. I don't know if they make dolls like this anymore. But you could give the doll liquid and the doll would urinate, but they would give the doll liquid, they would put the doll on the potty, oh, good job, and have the doll kind of go through the whole routine. So they had a distraction-free environment. So again, it was individualized training with one trainer. They said they did tell the parents to leave the house. So the parents were not even at the house that day, but it did occur in their own homes. They had a lot of trials. They had lots of liquids. Drink, because they want lots of practice with going in the potty. They did do manual guidance with verbal instructions. Some of the kids, given that they were young, maybe didn't understand some of the directions. So they did do physical prompting for them. They did state in the article that they were able to easily fade out a lot of those physical prompts with the kids, and maybe just use modeling for some of the other ones. They had a couple kids that they labeled as problem kids that tantrumed some, but they said they kind of quickly got over it. They did have prompted practice. So every 10 minutes, they would sit for 5 minutes to try to get them to urinate. So they didn't do extended sits with typically developing kids. But they did use a lot of reinforcement for avoiding in the toilet, and then smaller amounts of reinforcers for remaining dry. They did a kind of a preference assessment to determine the reinforcers by talking to the parents about what would be motivating for the child. So they mentioned they use tasty edibles such as chips or chocolate chips or things like that. And they would give the kids a lot of them. They feed in the potty, and then small amounts for remaining dry, and then also completing some of those components of the dressing or toileting routine. Okay. They did dry pants checks every 5 minutes with these kids. Kids will urinate a lot. Even when I've got a kid in toilet training, they sit on the toilet, they void a lot. When they get up, I'm always ready. I am ready right away for the next occurrence of urine. It's amazing how fast and how quickly those can come. So they were doing dry pants checks every 5 minutes and giving them, again, a small reinforcer if, oh, good job, good dry pants. So dry pants check means that they are having the children check themselves, like, are your pants wet or dry? And having the kids either feel their pants or tell the researcher, yep, dry pants or wet pants, or maybe the researcher would help them with that if they didn't have the verbal skills. Immediacy of detection of accidents, and then negative reinforcements for the accidents. So they did verbal reprimands. They did timeout from reinforcement. So if a child did have an accident, they would get a no, you pee in the potty, or no, you don't wet your pants. The child would not get the reinforcer at the next dry pants check, so they missed it for the next one. And they also had to go and change their clothes and like take care of all of that. They didn't make them take a shower or anything like that. But then they also did positive practice after the accident. So if the child had an accident, they did the verbal reprimand, time out, clothes change, and then they would practice having them move to that toilet from various locations in their house. So maybe they go to the kitchen, they go to the toilet, go to the living room, go to the toilet, go to their room, walk to the toilet. But otherwise, they did kind of stay in the bathroom for most of the study. They used symbolic reinforcement, which I thought was interesting. I didn't see this in any other research articles, but telling them that like family members or Santa Claus or somebody like that is going to be, grandma's going to be so proud of you. And they said they just threw that in to see if that would work. That was kind of funny. They did not use underwear alarms due to individualized training. So, but yeah, dry pants, a rapid method toilet training. Big article. Some other contributions of Nate Azrin, I won't go into it. He's a big researcher who developed token economies, timeout procedures. He did research in addiction reduction, shaping a successor for approximations and habit reversal. So pretty cool guy. And again, that video is on YouTube if you'd like to check it out. It's about an hour long, but it tells on the comments like where he starts talking about Anna State Hospital. So okay, so just some recent research for toileting. So this was an article published in 2002 that used almost a pure reinforcement-based toilet training procedure. The other two that we just looked at did use some kind of contingency for accidents. So if a child had an accident, they were going to get a verbal reprimand, have to do some overcorrection or like cleanup, some kind of restitution for what they had done. For this, it was reinforcement only. So they had 3 kids with ASD. They were aged 4 to 6. The children were chosen by the research based on their readiness, and they used a prerequisite checklist. So the kids had to be able to follow directions. They had to stay dry for an hour and a half. And then they also, I think, they wanted them to have tried toilet training before. So, but the components for this study, of course, they used reinforcement. Like I said, that was reinforcement for remaining dry and for voiding in the toilet. They used graduated guidance or physical prompting. So when they were telling the children, hey, pull down your pants, sit on the potty, they would prompt them through this. They did schedule practice trials. So let's practice sitting on the potty. Good job. Nice job. Forward prompting for them. So fading out prompts from the front. Really no contingencies for accidents at all. It was like, well, we're going to go on a schedule, a really tight schedule. If you urinate in the toilet, we will provide reinforcement. We will provide reinforcement for you being dry. But if you had an accident, that's okay. We'll just change your pants. So these kids were toilet trained. It took about 7 to 11 days, all maintained at 1 year, and 2 increased their request to use the bathroom. So that's not a bad outcome at all, especially given like this was not as, I guess it's saying, like aversive because you don't have those negative sort of contingencies for accidents. Okay. This is another article on just looking at what happens when you change the undergarments. So these researchers were going to try out what happens when you just put kids in underwear versus a diaper or a pull-up. So effects of undergarment type on urinary continence of toddlers. Okay, toddlers. So these are very, very young children, 21 to 30 months. Again, typically developing kids, but all they did was look at their urination rates or what they were doing when they were wearing underwear compared to wearing diapers, compared to wearing pull-ups, okay? So in the pull-ups, I guess, are a little bit thinner than diapers. I cannot tell, honestly, that pull-ups appear thinner than diapers. I guess they are a little thinner and easier to move in, but they wanted to see if there's any difference in the urination with diapers and pull-ups too. They did do bathroom trips every 30 minutes. They only had them sit for 3 minutes, like, you want to sit here, go sit here, it's okay. No big deal. Oh, if they peed in the potty, oh, good job. feeding the potty. Here's some M&Ms, here's some chips, here's your favorite toy. Good job. 2 of them began urinating in the toilet and decreased the accidents. 1 began just holding their urine, and so they took a nap when they got their pull-up on, or leaving clinic for the day. So a little bit of mixed results there. I guess 2 of the kids did not decrease their accidents at all. But for some kids, maybe that want to stay dry, maybe if you have like if you had a typically developing kid that I know with some character underwear, like, oh, don't make Minnie Mouse wet or whatever, this might be effective. Also, you know, urinating in underwear is a lot different than pull-ups, which we're going to talk about later too. So, okay. This is another article, and this was a parent training model for toilet training kids with autism. These were 2 males, age 4 and 6, and the parents were trained right from the start. So the researchers came to their house, trained the parents in this method. They increased fluids. They had scheduled toilet sits. I believe it was every 30 minutes for 5 minutes. They would sit. Positive and negative reinforcement for voiding. So they did have the consequences here with a verbal reprimand and having the children clean themselves up. They did a fade out with the sitting though, and we're going to look at that at the next slide. But this, again, the parents implemented the entire procedure. So for this model, they were trying to fade out systematically the sitting time on the toilet and then the off toilet time. But they wanted the kids to start initiating when they had to go while they were fading this out. So they started out with the kids sitting on the toilet for up to 30 minutes. And then you get a 5-minute break for a successful void. So let's say your child sat on the toilet for 15 minutes, they voided, yay, good job. They get off the toilet for 5 minutes, and then they're going to get back on the toilet for 30 minutes. Okay, and you're going to keep up with that until they meet a certain criteria. Now, if a child sat for 30 minutes and did not void, you're still going to let them get off the toilet for 2 minutes because we don't want those little legs and bottoms to get all stiff, and then back on for 30 minutes. So, but if a child meets criteria on the first level, then you're going to move to the next level. So after you meet criteria for 30 minutes on and 5 minutes off, then you go 25 minutes on and 10 minutes off. Then it's 20 minutes on and 15 minutes off. Now, the researchers wanted the kids to start initiating when they were at about the 20-minute on, 15-minute off level. So that's about 35 minutes between urinations, or 35 minutes total. If for kids that were not initiating, what they did, rather than have them sit on the toilet for 20 minutes, is they had them sit in a chair next to the toilet. So if the child started to urinate in the chair, the parent would move them quickly over to the toilet and have them finish voiding in the toilet. And they said that was successful in getting the kids to start initiating and then just moving to the toilet, knowing that, like, when I get this feeling, when this is feeling like this, I need to be sitting on the toilet, and then pairing that urge to go or going with sitting on the toilet. One child in this study had 0 accidents within 5 days. The other child, it took 2 weeks, but that's not too bad. Not too bad on that. Okay. And then this is an extension of some commonly used toilet training procedures. These were 13 kids with ASD. They were aged 2 years, 4 months to 13 years, 10 months. Only 2 had attempted to do toilet training previously. The interventions took place only at the clinic, and the parents were told just to keep up their regular routines at home and not really to worry about doing any type of toileting. I find that a little hard to believe that they wouldn't try to maybe take them more often to continue that, but those are the instructions that were given to the parents. The components for this one were wearing underwear, doing scheduled sits for 3 minutes every 30 minutes, and then they increased that once the level was mastered. Reinforcement for remaining dry as a pants check, urinating in the toilet, and initiating going to the bathroom too. So if they started to move to the bathroom or asked to go to the bathroom, they received reinforcement for that. They did prompt their kids to request the bathroom at each trip. This is something that I also do in clinic too. Like if I'm going to be taking a kid to the bathroom, I'll have them give me their PEX card, just like they're asking me to go, or maybe have them say potty or I want to go potty. The results for this show that 9 participants reached criteria in 20 sessions and only 4 needed a specialized package. So that's not too bad. That's a lot of kids, and some of them are quite a bit older. So you get a little more, it's a little tougher when they get a little older because they've had more practice with just wearing diapers or pull-ups. So okay, so what are the most important components of toilet training? What are the things that we really, really, really need to focus on? And what are the things that are going to be most effective for toilet training kids with autism? Okay, you're going to have to teach the toileting routine. Wearing underwear is important. Establishing a sit schedule, using a lot of positive reinforcement, increasing and manipulating your fluids, using communication training, underwear alarms, and having consequences for accidents. So let's go over these things. And if you guys have questions at any time about any of these components, like, hey, I've tried this, you know, feel free to just jump in with a question. So, okay. So let's just mention real quick toileting prerequisites. So these are some toileting prerequisites that are commonly cited in the research literature. One is staying dry for a predetermined amount of time. So this is really important. It is really important that you know that your child or client or whoever you're working with can stay dry for at least 30 minutes. That's kind of the floor that I use. If a child cannot stay dry for 30 minutes, we're really not ready for toileting just yet. Many research articles that I've referenced today are using 1.5 to 2 hours. That's a long time for a little one to go without urinating in the toilet. They do need to have control of their abdominal muscles though, which again, if they can stay dry for 30 minutes, you can somewhat suspect that they might have control of their abdominal muscles, but that is something that you might need to be sure of before you jump right into toilet training. So I have 2 examples. One is my own daughter, who one of my good friends, who is also a behavior analyst, came to my house to work on toilet training with her. So I was like, oh, this is so awesome, because I was not a behavior analyst yet. My daughter had just turned 2 years old. I was so excited. Oh, we're going to get her toilet trained. Yay, yay, yay. So my daughter is in the toilet training process and she starts to have an accident. And so my friend yells at her, no, you pee in the potty, which is part of the procedure. My daughter literally could not stop going to the bathroom. And it was clear after, a couple reprimands that she could not stop. She did not really have control of her urine just yet. So we had to back off. But it was kind of funny too, because when my friend yelled at my daughter, then my daughter started crying, and then my friend started crying too. So that kind of ruined the verbal reprimand aspect of it. But other kids may have maybe comorbid disorders where they have weaker abdominal muscles, are not able to retain their urine. That's my second example. I jumped into toilet training way too fast with a client who also had some motor difficulties. And I had been so excited about this client, because when we were taking him on just scheduled bathroom trips, which is kind of how I started out doing toilet training, he was urinating in the toilet like pretty regularly. And I was like, wow, that's great. He's urinating in the toilet all the time, but he was urinating all the time in his pull-up and in the toilet. So I should have been better about making sure that he could stay dry for 30 minutes, because it was bad for him. It was a bad procedure, and that was completely my error. So they should have regular bowel movements. Again, these toileting prerequisites, these are just things to think about. They don't necessarily have to stop you, other than having to stay dry for a predetermined amount of time. Having regular bowel movements is very, very helpful. Sometimes bowel control when you're doing toilet training for urine is a little bit difficult to get at the same time, because bowel movements aren't happening as frequently as you are producing urine. And it's a little bit different too. With urine, you're almost having to stop it from coming out. But with a bowel movement, you're having to like make it come out. So, but the good thing about bowel movements is that most times there is a routine that kids have. Like, oh, the parent can tell you, well, my child always goes in the closet and hides, or they hide behind the couch, or they go and stand here, or I can hear them grunting. So they'll have some kind of tell signs or behaviors that they do. And so usually you can put in place a shaping procedure. So I had a client who had moved forward with his urinating toilet training program very well, but would ask for a pull-up to poop in. So he liked to put his pull-up on. He liked to go in his bedroom and poop in his room. So that was really, really easy to work with because he was requesting. So all we did was we locked his bedroom and said, oh, you can't go in your bedroom anymore. Just put your pull-up on and go in the bathroom and poop. So that was the first shape. So give him this pull-up. He went in the bathroom and pooped. That's great. Okay. Then after he was doing that over several days, then the next time, give you your pull-up, go in the bathroom. Okay, now we need you to sit on the potty. So we still got the pull-up on, but he's in the bathroom sitting on the toilet. So we're so close. After he mastered that, then I made pull-ups that had a hole in them. So now put your pull-up on, sit on the potty in the bathroom. You got a hole in your pull-up. You are pooping in the potty. And then with that client, we were easily able to fade out the rest of the pull-ups with him. So, but shaping procedures work really well if there's a routine that the child has for bowel movements. Can they follow simple instructions? You can use visuals, like go here, give me this. Can they do some of these things? This one's not as necessary, I think, as some of the other prerequisites. Are they uncomfortable in soiled diapers and pants? Again, not really a required prerequisite. That's very helpful, but we can teach them about wet and dry through the process of toilet training because they will be receiving reinforcement for dry and reinforcement will be withheld for accidents. Pulling your pants up and down, that is important unless you plan on being with your child for every single bathroom trip. I do know some kids that have gone through toilet training procedures and not been able to pull their pants fluently. But again, that's just going to require a lot of adult assistance. So typically, before I start doing an intensive toilet training procedure, we work on toileting routine until the child is fluent with that. So, and can they sit on the toilet for at least 5 minutes? They're going to need to be able to sit there, relax, and kind of let things happen. And 5 minutes is really about the bare minimum that you need to get started with this. Okay, so teaching the toileting routine. Clothing type. This is really important too. I actually had a child, this is so funny, this is when I worked at SIU. We had a kid come in and he was in the middle of a toilet training program and the parent did know, and he came in so cute. He was all dressed up and he had jeans and a belt on. I was like, oh my goodness. So you need sweatpants, shirts that really about end at their waist. You don't want long shirts. You need to be able to see that area and see what's going on. And you can either do no shoes or shoes that can get wet. Crocs are really great for toilet training. They have kids in toilet training procedure, so you can just rinse those babies right off and keep on going. The kids must walk willingly to the toilet and complete all the steps of the routine, really. Again, so you could do toilet training with a kid that was reliant on you for this, but again, they would never really achieve independence. So will they walk to the toilet? They've got to stand in front of the toilet. They've got to be able to pull their pants and underwear down to at least their knees, but keep them on. Okay, we don't want them to disrobe during toileting, so that's sometimes a battle we have to work in some teaching for. Can they sit on the toilet and potty insert for at least 5 minutes? So you really want them to be comfortable on wherever they're sitting with their feet on the floor or flat on something. They make those new, like I would call them like potty thrones. They're the inserts that you put in, and it's got the steps and handles and everything. And So the steps are really nice because the kids can keep their feet flat right there, and that will help with bowel movements also because they'll have something to kind of push against. And then when they're done, throwing their pants and underwear back up. So usually we use a chaining method for teaching this, where we start by teaching the last step and then move backwards. Oh, sorry, I should say backwards, not forward. Start with the last step and move backwards. So if we're going to teach toileting routine, the last thing that we would do, the first thing we would do pump fading for would be just pulling your pants up. So that would be the finished product. And then we'll fade that out. And then we will fade out maybe prompting to sit. And as they are completing those two steps independently, then we'll fade out prompting for pulling your pants down. And so it kind of works in a backward motion. So, any questions so far or anything? Okay, wearing underwear. Very, very, very important to wear underwear if you are doing toilet training. This is one I get a lot of resistance from parents from. Nobody likes urine everywhere. I mean, I'll hold my hand up on that. No one likes messes everywhere. But kids have to know that urinating in their pants, or have to understand or come to realize through practice that urinating your pants is different with underwear than a pull-up. So pull-ups are diapers with stretchy sides. They're just a diaper. So I'll have parents tell me, oh no, we switched to pull-ups. I'm like, well, it's still a diaper. So in the 70s, the median age of toilet training was 18 months. Let's think about that. 18 months in the 70s. And now it's almost 4 years. So that is a huge shift. 90% of 30-month-olds were toilet trained in 1961. So, but in the 60s and 70s, 50s, before that, everybody was using cloth diapers, which are really yucky and wet when they are soiled. So, and now we have disposable diapers that make everybody so dry and comfortable. And, you know, I'm not trying to poo-poo the diaper industry at all, because that's great for when you have infants, you know, keeping their skin dry and everything. But when you want them to urinate in the toilet, having them this comfortable in diapers is sometimes working against you. So, and again, like I said, even if being wet doesn't bother them, they will learn to differentiate the context through reinforcement. So you do need lots and lots and lots of underwear, lots of underwear. But underwear are easy to pull up and down, and the kids are freer movement. And a lot of times when you get kids wearing underwear and they're used to wearing the underwear, they don't want to go back to pull-ups because they are so bulky and uncomfortable. I have told some parents, if they really, like, I have a parent that's living in a new house, you know, I am very sympathetic to that. You still want to wear underwear, but you could always put a pull-up or diaper on over the underwear. So they're still feeling that wet if they urinate in their pants. Okay, a sit schedule. You need to have some kind of schedule of how long you're going to have them sit, how much break time. Definitely a minimum of 5 minutes initially. So 30, I think, is good. 20 or 30 is good if you're going to be doing the extended sit. And you may have to desensitize them to sitting. So you might have to get them used to just sitting on a toilet with the lid closed. I've done that before, like just sit on the potty with your clothes on. That's fine. Good job. Bottom to potty. Fine. We're all done for the day. Next time we come in, maybe we'll try to sit for a minute. You're going to be trying to reinforce that behavior also. They sit on the toilet. They get access to something that they really want. Usually I've had videos, some kind of food, something that's highly reinforcing. So you want to make it like, it's fun to come and sit on the toilet. We can watch the iPad, or we can look at your favorite book, or you get a popsicle when you do this. But once the child eliminates, you should have them get off the toilet, and they should receive a reinforcer. But again, you need to have a plan for reducing their time on the toilet and increasing their time off. It's important to take data on when they're urinating. So you want to kind of look for a pattern of how long are they going between urinations. Usually after you kind of get into the toilet training, you can see, okay, this kid is taking 40 minutes in between urinations. So I'm going to have them sit every 35 minutes. You definitely want them to sit on the toilet before that urination is going to occur to try to catch it. The child should be walking to the toilet to initiate the routine or the sit, even if you're still in the bathroom or maybe just right outside the bathroom, they should be willingly walking to it. But what can they do on the toilet? Again, iPads. We used to be able to get those, it's like a TV DVD combo unit things, and we would put those in the bathrooms and play videos for the kids all day. But I'm really aging myself now. I don't even make DVDs anymore, I don't think. So, okay. Another very important component, reinforcement. Reinforcement for voiding in the toilet and for dry pants. Okay. You first will need to identify reinforcers. Okay. So what is a reinforcer? A reinforcer is not just a preferred item. And I have had some parents try to toilet train their kids just using like, well, they like this book, so I'm going to see if they'll go in the potty for this book. Or I had a parent say, well, my child likes this little soccer ball keychain, so I'm going to try to use this. You can kind of determine, there is a way to determine like officially what reinforcers are, but for parent purposes, I would say you can determine something's a reinforcer because your child would be willing to engage in a behavior to get that thing. So you could try holding up like, oh, I've got this pencil, will you go over and, go get this and give it to your brother and I'll give you this pencil, versus I've got an iPad, clap your hands, go get me that cup, is your child willing to engage in other behaviors to get access to things? You can do a little preference assessment type of thing. Edibles are easy to do. So if you have questions about maybe what edibles your child would be most reinforced by or find most preferred, what you can do is take a plate and put 5 to 6 different edibles, small pieces of them, on the plate in kind of a line. Offer that to your child and let them take one at a time, just keeping track of what they're taking first. So they took the M&Ms first, they took the Lay's chips second, Doritos chip was third, and you might try presenting that a few times to see like, okay, every time I present this array of 5 different snack foods, they're always picking the chocolate chip cookies. So I think my child will probably prefer the chocolate chip cookies the most. Or, they're always picking the Lay's, or they're always picking this, or maybe they're always picking something different. So maybe you'd want to have a variety of different edibles or a variety of different reinforcers. You definitely need to keep those reinforcing items in the bathroom, but out of the child's reach, but easily accessible. You need to be able to grab those things right away and deliver them to the child when they are voiding in the toilet. So the second that urine is coming out, you're going to be delivering the reinforcer. That is exactly what I want you to do, little Johnny. Here's your M&Ms. Nice job. So, I got a question. Okay. Children only have accidents at night. Okay. That is a great question. Okay. So accidents at night, the easiest thing to do with these is to do the bedwetting alarm. So because everybody's asleep. And so this will help wake him and you up. And kind of take care of that. So when we get over to the toilet alarm stuff, we're going to talk about this. So that's a good question, though. Okay. The reinforcing items that you're using should only be available for toileting. So if you decide, like, okay, based on this preference assessment, Johnny likes Lay's chips and chocolate chip cookies. So from now, since we're in the toileting training phase, Lay's chips and chocolate chip cookies are only going to be used for voiding in the toilet or when we're in the toilet training procedure. If your child can get access to these things through other venues, like let's say, maybe for dinner we're going to have chips, like that's not going to be as effective. You need to keep these items in what's called like a, I always think about during Easter when the Russell Stover's eggs come out, like I'm all about those because they're only available for Easter. So I'm there at Schnucks, like loading my cart up with like 50 of those things. Not kidding. One time I bought 50 of them. So that's a little embarrassing to say, but okay. Let's see. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Providing access to the reinforcing item as soon as the child starts to urinate. Again, it's important to have those things at the ready in the bathroom. You want to be able to grab those right away. They sit on the potty, you got that M&M right in your hand, you're ready to give it to them if they start urinating. You always want to pair it with the descriptive phrase. Great job being in the potty. Then give a break from the toilet, but you need to stay in the bathroom, especially if your intervals are really short and you're giving them a lot of liquid. You can provide access to smaller amounts or lesser reinforcing items for having dry pants. I'm going to check those at regular intervals, every 15 minutes or so. Good job, dry pants. And then, oh no, wet pants. So, okay. Increasing and manipulating your liquids. This will give you lots and lots of practice. You need the kids to drink a lot, so they'll urinate a lot. The more repetition, the more contact they can have with that reinforcer. You feed, you get an M&M. You feed, you get an M&M. Good job. Feed, you get an M&M. If you're thinking about just a typical day, like, well, I just can take them, every hour or so, you only have so many times you're going to be able to provide reinforcement. So if you're loading them up with liquid, you'll be able to reinforce a lot. You don't really want to do more than 32 ounces of liquid per hour. That's a lot. And you want to really be careful they don't oversaturate with water because you don't want them to get water intoxication. Use a favorite liquid. I've done chocolate milk, juice, I've done soda, drink up. So at midpoint in the day, you're going to start decreasing your liquid intake because you want them to be able to start holding their bladder for longer times off the toilet. So you really only want to push those liquids in the first half of the day. And then after 6 p.m., you really want to kind of cut them off. So assuming that a child will go to bed around 8, you want about 2 hours to kind of dry them up. You can give them small drinks of liquid, but you don't really want to give them a big cup and load up that bladder before they go to sleep. You want them to kind of work on doing the bedtime dry, but that might come later. So, okay, communication training. The ultimate goal really is for the child to take themselves to the bathroom or to ask or tell someone that they need to use the bathroom. So in the Azrin and Foxx's first study with the adults, those adults were just going independently to the bathroom. So they just wanted them to initiate. For kids, they will need to be able to ask, like if they're at school or out somewhere where maybe you're not at home, they don't know where the bathroom is. So depending on the skill level of the child, you can do a text card, like a picture of the toilet in the bathroom, and I just prompt them, like, give me your text card. Oh, you need to go potty. Okay. Having to do a toilet sign, or having them say, I have to go potty or potty. But if you prompt it like they're asking to go, they should start to pair that and like, okay, I'm going to the bathroom. This is what comes before in this kind of behavior chain of events. This is a little link for a social story, and it's a little like video modeling like how to potty. So there's limited evidence for video modeling for kids with autism for toilet training. So I did include this because it was kind of cute, and it's one of the best video models I've seen for this. So, okay, underwear alarms. So let's talk about this, and I can throw the overnight training into this. But underwear alarms are really good to use in certain contexts. So they are designed to give instant feedback when accidents occur. So a bedwetting alarm, they're really the same thing. So underwear alarms might be a little bit smaller. The bedwetting alarms are a little bigger, but they're really like the same device. And I have a picture. This is my favorite, the Wet Stop 3. I've tried lots of different brands. I'm not a fan of the Dry Buddy version, but I do like the Wet Stop. It's a really loud, annoying kind of buzzing sound if the kids have an accident, but it's a sensor that clips to the front of their underwear right where urine would start coming out, and has a cord that would go like kind of between the child's legs and up their back. And then it has a battery pack that you attach either to the back of their shirt, like at the collar level, or you could attach it to the back of their pants. Sometimes you have to desensitize kids to wearing this, wearing these. They might be a little like annoying. I've got this cord here, but if that alarm goes off, you can immediately move the child to the toilet. So like you're peeing, we need to get to the bathroom right now. It is useful when traveling farther from the toilet or when starting to wear pants, because you can put that on underneath your pants. But many of them are just kind of bulky and not startling enough. So for the bedwetting, the overnight bedwetting, what you would do is you'd have the underwear, the bedwetting alarm on him, and that would go off if he started to urinate. So in that case, you'd want to do underwear under a pull-up. You put the pull-up on over, but you need to have underwear on underneath it to put that clip, that sensor clip on the underwear. So that would go off. That would still protect, your bed from being saturated. Have him get up, and then you could work with that. If you saw a pattern, like it's every night at 2 a.m. or so that he's urinating, then you could set an alarm for about 30 minutes before that, wake him up, have him urinate in the toilet, and then go back to bed. That is fairly disruptive, to sleep schedules. So if he's not wet all the time, I believe your comment said that it was not every night, you could just try the bedwetting alarm to wake him up when he is urinating at night. But 10 years old, that is getting a little bit far out of, I guess, the overnight bedwetting range. I had heard another researcher say that for boys, 8 years old was now like the age for complete toilet training, like with no accidents. It said that they took longer than girls, and it was around 8. So, but I do have my email in here at the end of this, if you'd like to send me any further questions on that. I did want to say, I mentioned about the consequences for accidents, because no one is really a fan of these, because it is uncomfortable to do, even if it is with your own child, but it is really important that you have the consequences for the accidents. So this has been shown to be a very, very strong component in getting the kids toilet trained. Sharp, stern, neutral type voice. So you don't have to yell. But it does need to be something to kind of startle them. The point is also to get them to stop urinating, like stop urinating and we'll finish on the potty. So, and then you can provide a reinforcing item and then a break. And then positive practice, where they were walking to the toilet afterwards, practice pulling down their pants, sitting, and then pulling pants up, and then repeating that 3 times in a row. So that's kind of like, we didn't do it right, so let's practice. Let's practice doing it right. This is the way we do it. We're not going to urinate in our pants. We're going to walk to the potty and go. And then, of course, cleaning up all the mess if an accident occurs. And that would just be according to the child's developmental level, what they could help with. So definitely having them change their own clothes, wiping themselves off, wiping, like if there's a mess on the floor, I've given like a child, like a baby wipe, like wipe that up. Now you made a mess, so you got to clean it up. Okay, but yeah, it is a little uncomfortable with the consequences for accidents. So, but okay, and that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any follow-up questions or anything? Again, this is my email in case anyone wanted to ask me anything directly. So.